Right.
Let's get it right then.
So like.
Christine?
Yeah, just like this one. Oh, come on. There we go. Hi, Christine.
Hello there. Oh, is that Harrogate?
It is.
Lovely. Miss Harrogate.
How did you sit on it? What is it? Another one's coming regarding a recurring.
That time I was saying to you, that should.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Figured out the team was worn out.
Yes, I've noticed that, but you just stick with it.
I think it's just something from trying to.
Shall I share mine?
Oh, Maddie's still here. I put in
That's
that
baby.
That's who was going. It was.
It won't surprise me that he sat next to her now.
It's in the hospital.
And his wife Stu, Mrs. Bass.
I've been here all the time.
With a big contraption all weekend. When he spoke from then, I was like,
Yeah.
his partner, like his business.
Christine?
Like his. Yes, it's going to be made.
Can you mute him again, Matt? Been a bit noisy on mine.
Ready, guys?
Bloody Paul Adams.
Floor's yours, Christine.
Okay.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this one. Wow.
This is the most exciting of all. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. 3DS. Everybody loves 3DS.
Woo-hoo! Exciting.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'll start. So, Christine Jameson, I've been here about 14 months. I've worked on 3DS2 mostly and fraud product, a bit of Verify and Ethica. And the 3DS2 migration project has been, one of the key focuses. Just wanted to give you an overview. For SME, I guess 3DS should be there with every gateway, every merchant that integrates on the TRU Connect gateway. They should have 3DS as a standard anyway. But I wanted to kind of just explain a few bits and pieces to people who weren't here a year ago when I went through this with the company. I did a presentation, that took people through the whole migration and did a bit of an explanation of what 3DS was. So I've just covered a few points from there. Try and stay awake. So why migrate to 3DS2? It's got 10 times as much data as 3DS1. So the issuer gets a better picture and is able to make a better decision on whether the transaction should be approved or not. And they get a lot more data on the shopper and what the shopper's been doing and what device they're using and location data and all the sort of stuff that mobile input can provide these days, where you're being tracked everywhere. As soon as you pick up a mobile phone, you're leaving a footprint of what you're doing and everything. Mobile support was not there for 3DS1 because it was 20 years ago and there wasn't such a thing as smartphones then. Mobile phones were probably, not very mobile, I don't know, 20 years ago. So it needed an update. And about 5 years ago, the card schemes all got together and came up with a new spec. EMVCo are the owners of the spec, and we actually certify with EMVCo as a 3DS provider before we certify with Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and so on. Mobile support, I've done that. Liability shifts to the issuer in the case of fraud, which is also the case with 3DS1. And we've got biometric and out-of-band support, so you can authenticate yourself with a Face ID and voice and whatever else your issuer might decide that they want you to provide as evidence that you are the actual owner of the card or of the device that you're trying to shop with. Payment and non-payment transactions are supported, so when they add credit card to a digital wallet, it supports that kind of authentication. and the mandate was 31st of December for cards issued in the EEA, with a UK ramp up that started this year and finishes in March 2022. So the it started June this year, and that's why we're getting soft declines for some UK transactions as well now, with maybe, say, issuers are, say, looking at a random 10% of transactions, and if there's no 3DS on them, they will soft decline them, which means please send with 3DS. Right at the bottom, there's just something about what 3DS or what SCA is, and there are 3 categories: something only the customer has, something the customer knows, and something the customer is. So something the customer has is, say, a card or a smartphone, a mobile phone, laptop, whatever. Something the customer knows could be some data that they've put down when they enrolled with their card, with their issuer, or a passcode or something. And something the customer is obviously, your fingerprint or your voice or your face, whatever else they need to, whatever else the issuer decides to check.
Christine,
Yeah.
I've seen some emails on the kind of soft declines. Are
Yeah.
you going to pick this up later, or?
Can't remember if I've referred to it. I think I may have referred to it later, but yes, certainly I can mention it as well, because it's pretty critical.
Yeah, so we're getting a lot of those ones. That's why we got to start pushing any of our merchants.
Absolutely, it's absolutely key, which is another reason I've gone into a bit of detail with this one, because soft declines are something we have to respond to. If you're on 3DS2, you shouldn't get soft declines, but some people do get them. But those are not being counted. MasterCard assure us that they're not counting ones that are soft declines that have been put there by accident because the issuer's got the wrong decline code and they've decided to decline with a soft decline instead of some other kind of decline.
Yeah, and I know you got lots on that, but Muriel, have we on the data we've got, and probably maybe Christine knows.
Yeah, I do.
Which ones are still on? I haven't got 3DS at all.
Yeah, I do.
1, 2? Mm-hmm.
I do have those who haven't got 3DS, I hope not many, and then 3DS1, 3DS2. I just need to understand there's some exception, isn't it, Christine, where they don't necessarily need to be on 3DS2. But yes, I do have the data, is the answer to the question.
Because could that be an angle in for you guys when another one of your tactics when you're calling these? If you know they're not on 3DS2, you can obviously push them that way and all the benefits of it as well. Okay, sorry, Christine.
Okay. SCA, so just more about strong customer authentication. FCA, so the UK regulator, agreed a 50-month delay, which is the March 2022, for cards issued or transactions acquired in the UK. Visa are saying 3DS 2.2 must be available to merchants by last March. So, we have that availability. It's just merchants need to actually pick it up and use it. MasterCard 3DS 2.1 should already be available, but there's a push to move to 3DS 2.2, and we already support 2.2. So our own MPI, which we've had about 100 transactions on our own MPI in the pilot. We're using we've seen a combination of 3DS 2.1 and 2.2 on there, so we support both. Amex 3DS 2.1 should be supported by last December. 3DS 1, they are removing some of the attractiveness of 3DS 1 by taking away some liability protection this month, which means another push towards 3DS 2, because if you attempt a transaction that's a 3DS 1 using 3DS 1 and the issuer doesn't support it, up until the 16th of October, you can still have liability protection. But after the 16th of October, it's no good. You can attempt a transaction, but you will still be liable. Even for an attempt meaning that the issuer doesn't support it, only the acquirer does or the merchant does. So there's something called an attempt server, and those attempts servers at Visa and MasterCard are being removed this month. EBA, there's regulatory, all EEA issued cards need to have SCA applied. So that's from the live date. EEA regulatory live date was March 2021, and the UK one, as I said, it's a bit of repetition, is 14th of March next year, but ramp up started in June.
So an FYI, guys, we were ready before they kept pushing everything back. So as an acquirer and TRU Connect, we were all ready for this. And then as they pushed it back and they pushed it back, but we've
Yeah,
always been
so
at the
merchants
forefront.
just-
You know.
Yeah, said, oh, we don't need to do it, do we? And that kind of didn't really
Yeah.
help. It
And
would
we put
help
all the
if they
stops
just got rid of
together.
3DS1 now, and then
Yeah.
everyone would be on 3DS2 and we wouldn't get all the fines and things.
Yeah.
It would just mean
Christine,
3DS1 wouldn't work. 3DS1 just wouldn't work if they took it away. So people would have to move to 3DS2. Sorry.
Christine, sorry. It's a bit of a stupid question for me, but if we've got a gateway customers, and I know that if they don't have 3DS, then we will offer 3DS2 today, I guess, with it. Yeah. No. Yeah. But if we've got yeah, exactly. But if we've got an existing customers from a few years back,
yeah,
could we have a situation where we've got a gateway still on 3DS1? Or do we systematically migrate? Is it systematically?
We can't migrate everybody, so we can't migrate merchants that are API merchants. They have to do the work themselves to integrate with the latest JavaScript for our gateway. If they're hosted page merchants and they're only simple hosted page with no complex integrations, we can migrate them ourselves, and we have done that by script for a lot of them. So we've got several hundred of them that we've got on 3DS2, either API or we've migrated them over. But there's just a few there are multiple stragglers left that we need to get moved over.
So it's an additional benefit we give them. It's free and they don't have to do anything for these guys. We move them to forget it. I think yeah.
Well, I can't think of a gateway that wouldn't be supporting it. We've got some partners that maybe have a combination of 3DS1 and 3DS2, and they've tried 3DS2, had a few more declines and went back to 3DS1. That's so but there shouldn't be a gateway out there in Europe that's only on 3DS1. That shouldn't be.
Okay. But the reason I'm asking, because I remember looking at those data and I saw 3DS1 quite a few and I wondered what it was possible. Okay, I think that's what you explained. Okay, forget it for now.
Yeah, it's because there are so many merchants that need to do the work themselves, and it can take some time to do it. So if we could just migrate them all, it would be lovely, but we can't.
Quite a big issue still with WooCommerce, isn't there? I think we thought it had solved, but then it's still ongoing.
It's still ongoing, and they're the slowest developers in the world by the looks of it. The company that we're using to do the upgrade to 3DS2 and the upgrade to the latest WooCommerce. I have a call with the tech specialists every week, and we get an update. But I can't believe how slow the progress is. It's really not.
Can't we do a Jonathan O'Connor and just pay someone else to do it? If you're taking that long, it's
taking so long because it might take 6 months for the next one. That's the thing. We're stuck with it now, but I wouldn't recommend that company again.
Yeah. Shocking
because that they're the cause of some of the fines we're getting. The fact that
some of our big customers are on that as well, and they're we're constantly fighting fires with these customers.
I know. I'm seeing emails every day about it. That I don't know if it's related to that or something else, but those customers, the ones that are using carts, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. See, I don't know what the background is in. Is it that you just have partners? A lot of partners just are on WooCommerce, and therefore that's the sort of norm for, say, certain types of merchants. Or
quite a lot of merchants use WooCommerce, I think, because of the website builder that goes with it. It's the fairly straightforward main used one. I don't know, Andy, have you got any comments on that?
I'd say about 90% of the applications we put through are all on WooCommerce, and we have partners who, we have all our web developers who specialise in WooCommerce, and so basically at the minute we've got web developers that have got like maybe 10 or so accounts that are having issues with 3D Secure.
And you talk to the web developers rather than the merchants then, generally?
Yeah.
So they must be really frustrated as well with this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's getting to the point where we're very close to losing quite a few partners because of it. So this company needs to really get a move on, or be paying all these money that we're losing?
Well, I think that we've got to threaten them financially, these people. I think it's the only way we can do it, and withhold some money.
Get Jonathan on a call with him, Paul. He's usually good at that.
I'm trying to get off mute. Yeah, we'll get them chopped. Anyway.
Okay. I'll go on to the next one then. We've done that one before. I'm not going to cover this again. This is just what I said before, but in with a different picture. I think it was late when I did this presentation. I just grabbed it, stuck them on there. It was like 8 o'clock at night, and I was tired. So it was
and you're on your second bottle of wine as well. Yeah. Okay.
Well, third actually. Yeah. No, I don't drink wine. I'm a beer drinker. Sorry. Living in Germany, I drank beer.
Third Stein.
Sorry?
Your third Stein.
Stein? No, not Steins. No. Ladies' glass. Ladies' glass. Okay. So yeah, as I said before, something you know, something you have, and something you are, just on a different screen. So allows you to verify the identity, or allows your issuer to verify your identity. And it's strong customer authentication is SCA. So I've heard it called lots of things, but that's the proper description of it. How does it work? This is the bit that you can go to sleep now if you're not interested in it. But this is a very, very high level diagram that Visa put together. When authentication is required, so when 3DS is needed, it takes place before authorization, and it uses the issuer's selected method. So it's usually 3D Secure, 3DS 2.1, 2.2, and the industry name is EMV 3DS for that, with fallback to 3DS 1 at the moment, until next year when 3DS 1 will be completely gone. So if the issuer doesn't support 3DS 2 yet, and because they're outside of Europe, then the transaction should always fall back to 3DS 1 so that they can be authenticated. With mobile app based, the SDK, there's a 3DS SDK, and we're developing those as well. They're not ready yet, but they will be ready later this year or early next year. They allow the merchant to have if they've got a mobile application, they will display a frame of the challenge screen. So if the issuer says you need to enter a one-time passcode that's being sent by SMS, the SDK facilitates that in the right format for that device. So whether it's an Android or an iOS device, and there's a whole load of certification stuff going on at the moment for those within Vico, and some testing with the card schemes for our own SDKs. There are already SDKs out there that are based on the Cardinal integration, and Cardinal is the MPI provider that we use at the moment, but we've written our own MPI, and the new SDKs will work with that new MPI. So the SDK communicates with the 3DS server and with the issuer ACS. So if the issuer says we need to challenge this card holder for more information, then there's a direct communication between the ACS and the SDK and the app. So if it's browser based, so it's a web application, then there's something called the 3DS method software that's on there, and it's specified by MVico. The merchant application gathers the information, so the device information, all the other bits and pieces, the email address, the telephone number, all that stuff, sends it to the MPI or 3DS server, and that communicates with the directory server. And the directory server, MasterCard's got one, Visa's got one, you know, all of the card schemes have their own directory, and that's got all the MIDs. That contains all the MIDs for that acquirer. So if you're acquiring through Malta, anybody using, say, the Cardinal MPI needs to be added to the Visa directory server under that MID and that acquiring bin, the Maltese acquiring bin and the right MID. And that's how it works out whether you're registered or not. And that directory server, when a transaction takes place, communicates with, on the issuing side, with the ACS. And then there's the Visa attempt server over here. And that ACS is where the issuer communication takes place. So the bank says, yes, you can have your money, or no, I need more information. You know, I'm going to send a one-time passcode to this card holder on this mobile phone number. So it's a kind of request response. You know, there's authentication request comes this way, and then the response goes back from the issuer with a challenge where necessary. So that's very high level, but there's a much more detailed one if anyone wants to see it. I can show you, but it's, yeah, you probably won't need it. And how does a customer get signed up? All e-commerce merchants must support 3DS in Europe, either using their own MPI or their provider's MPI or using ours. New customers, it should default boarding time, 3DS should be on. And our 3DS server, as I said, unless they have their own MPI, but obviously we'd like them to use our 3DS software.
Do we know many that are using their own MPI or third party?
I had some stats, but the problem is now as soon as we move a hosted page merchant, it adds a line on there that makes it look like they're using someone else's MPI, but they're not. They're using.
Right, okay.
So the
So
only way
majority are using either what we've
most of
provided.
them are using ours. Most are using ours. The Cardinal one, you know, that's where the bulk of them are using. So ultimately, that Cardinal interface will be gone when we move people over, and we will just switch them over.
Mhm.
You know, once they're integrated on the Cardinal side, it's a simple switch over to the new MPI. So once we're happy that everything's working properly on the new MPI, we can start to move everybody over.
And that'll be seamless, just for everybody. That's seamless.
Yes,
yep.
It should be seamless. There shouldn't be any issues as long as they're on the latest JavaScript library. So if they're API merchants, then they do still have to do the integration with 3DS2. So they move to Cardinal first, or ultimately, they'll move to us if we've decided this is the cutover, you know, that everybody now goes on to our new one. But they need to be integrated with the latest JavaScript library if they're API merchants. Hosted page, we can do it for them. So as I said, we'll be migrating them following successful pilot. And then coming next, we've got 3DS for gateways and PSPs, so we can actually sell it to a whole gateway. But that's not ready yet. We need to do several months of work on there, and there's a lot of reporting and so on, and portal type access that anybody like a gateway needs to be able to go in and have a look and see what's happened if there's a transaction failing or whatever. It's the sort of access that Cardinal provides us with. So we'll be emulating what they've done, but doing it better. You know, we'll improve it based on our techies' opinion of what Cardinal have got. Will make it better than what we've got from Cardinal. But then we can then offer it to gateways and large merchants, PSPs. So as I said earlier, coming in December, January, there's the SDKs, iOS and Android, and they'll work with our new 3DS service. And there is support for hosted page customers. So if you've got a new customer coming and they're a hosted page user, tech support can just switch it on very quickly for them. If their API, as I said, they need to integrate with our JS library. And then contact support when they're ready to switch on. So it's still a switch over from 3DS1 to 3DS2.
Right, it's quite a lot in there, Christine. And
There is.
My kind of head is a bit spinning because we've been.
I know you've had a lot. I know this is a bad time of day for something like this.
It's all right. We got DCC next, and there's another one afterwards. So don't worry.
I've got the same page twice as well, so it's all right. Jump over this one. Okay.
Just that one. We just had an SDK session actually with Alison.
Right, and she'll have been talking about the iOS and Android SDKs.
Yeah. Okay.
So those SDKs, the payment SDK will pick up the latest 3DS SDK stuff. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right.
And business types, as I said, it's all e-com businesses that process in EU, EEA. They must support 3DS. That's including the UK. And we shouldn't board customers without 3DS, otherwise we're just causing ourselves a lot of trouble. Please, if anyone can suggest any further pilot merchants, I'd be very grateful. We have 2 merchants on there, and one's doing about 1 transaction a week, and the other one's doing about 90. So it's not enough. We need more volume before we can say that we're happy with it. But if anyone's got any kind of medium-sized merchants, you know, in between the kind of 1 and the 500 transactions a week or something, that would be great. Let me know. We can move them over to 3DS2 if they're already on Cardinal, even easier. But if they're, say, hosted page and they need to move to 3DS2, we can move them.
So can we find that on our back book? Can we pick those merchants out? We can start getting the likes of Dan and the guys to pick those out.
Yeah, I mean, I had Dale in my team had a look at some, proposed a few,
Yep.
and I'd go for low. You know, I wouldn't go for gaming kind of merchants.
No, these won't be doing that. These will be very
Yeah.
much the kind of S&B market. So
Yeah.
Christine, I've got a charity one that might be interested.
Yeah. Okay. And the one merchant we've got is WooCommerce. Actually, the bigger merchant is using WooCommerce, but he's hosted page, so he's not using the Illustrate plugin. He's using the other one, and you know, it seems to be working fine from what I've seen. So.
Okay, I think we need the breakdown, and we'll see who the account manager is on it, and then they can push them. We can give them a bit of an incentive. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
We'll take that on.
Right.
Right.
How much? Current recommended
30
price.
seconds you got left.
Okay, 1.5p. Then you're including 2p fee in the gateway. Include it in the gateway transaction price. It's better because we were billing them separately, and some of them were getting bills for 29 pence and saying, "What am I going to do with this? I don't pay gateway fees." So it's better to include it in the gateway fee.
So guys, make sure that you charge. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Make sure you're charging 12 pence per transaction on the gateway going forward, because that will cover this. But make sure also that you're talking about 3DS2, so that people are aware of it, aware how to get it. You know, if they're not something we can switch on, then they need to know how to switch it on. You need to make sure you're talking to the web developer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Competition. I was asked to just say what the competition is doing. So most gateways have their own MPI. Cardinal Commerce charge $2 to large customers as a gateway fee. And MasterCard charges the acquirer as well. So 2.2 cents for 3DS2, 4.4 cents for 3DS1. Another reason to move to 3DS2. Visa charges 2 cents. Competitors on the standalone service would charge a monthly fee. I've had a complaint in the last month when we were talking to someone who weren't happy with their own provider. We're looking at other gateway. This is at gateway level though, and they're charging something like €1,000 a month. So an MPI provider would charge a gateway €1,000 a month, and then a transaction fee of less than 1 cent or 1p. Other providers charge additional fees for things like €500 a month for Amex or whatever. And the US fees are much, much higher, but this won't impact you, but that's just for info. What integration types do you support? Hosted page, JavaScript library, blah, blah, blah. Just to tell merchants that integration is required for the API merchants. Standalone is going to come later, so server to server, and standalone, that would be for gateways. So if you're selling to a whole gateway. And the other question is, do you have mobile SDKs? So yes, you know, or do you have mobile applications? Those, you know, if the merchant's got mobile apps, we can give them the SDKs that will work with 3DS2. Which card schemes are supported? Currently, Visa and MasterCard today, and Amex is coming in Q4, so we're certifying with them very soon. And Diners actually is coming after that. This is just a quick one about the customer experience online. So what a challenge, what a website would look like. And this is this kind of challenge where you enter your one-time passcode here to authenticate. So that would be what's displayed on a mobile device via the SDK or on your laptop if it's a web integration. There's more mobile stuff where you can verify the purchase using Touch ID. And then I've got Visa Verify and MasterCard Ethico, which I'm just plugging. So we need to sell more of those if anyone knows anyone with lots of chargebacks. So, any other questions?
I think the verifying Ethica, I'm not sure that'll be much for the guys on that one. There might be the odd one there. And we need to look. We're getting a report out on a weekly basis, so we'll start targeting those ones from a higher level.
Mhm.
I don't know, guys. Questions? All have enough.
For these for the Ethica and Verify, what sort of chargeback levels are we talking about here?
Some of them are not that huge, but they're also people like the ones that are that are going to be switched off if they don't do something about it. You know, so where the underwriting have said, okay, you've got too many chargebacks, so you need to use Verify and Ethica, or you're out. You know, we'll cut you off. We'll terminate you.
Look, our level is 75 basis points. You know, so anybody who's trending above that. And they start running away, they need to be on it now. You might get a spike for 1 month and not the next, but to start trending that, and that's what we're going to get the report out from Agnieszka. Start looking at ones who are trending much higher. Then it's their opportunity to either stay with us and they go Verify and Ethica, or we terminate them. It's as simple as that now, guys. We've cleaned our book up so much, but we still got to keep doing it.
Okay.
All right.
Any more for anyone?
When you mentioned about the 16th of October being the deadline for liability, so after that point, if they're still on 3D Secure version 1, and if they get like a possible fraudulent transaction, is the merchant who's liable from then on, is it based?
Only if it's an attempt. So if the issuer doesn't support 3DS1, so if, say the issuer doesn't support 3DS at all, previously you get liability protection if you sent a 3DS1 attempt, even if it wasn't successful because the issuer doesn't support it. So even if you can't authenticate the card holder, previously you would get an A in the status, which means an attempt. Now you will get nothing. You're not protected, so you're liable for that transaction if the issuer doesn't support it. So it's another reason that they're trying to sort of make 3DS1 less attractive and try and move people over to 3DS2.
How much are we now doing to remind people about 3DS2, why they should switch? You know, so tell them that they will be fined if they get fraudulent transactions.
There's been a few recent notifications out. One's about 3DS1, one to API merchants, and I try and, not every week, but I try and get to the account managers that are in charge of the merchants that have the high no 3DS. The problem is some of those have got kind of complex, you know, they've got either they're waiting for WooCommerce, or they are sometimes US with a few EU transactions.
We're able to get a blanket email that goes to all of our merchants, because there's been quite a few occasions. I know Dan Mathers will probably confirm this or not, but I'm pretty sure there've been quite a few occasions where we've had ones that we've looked into and they haven't been sent an email. And you know, these are older merchants, but even their initial email hasn't gone to them. It's gone to the old account manager.
It's gone to the wrong place. Yeah.
So we've got quite a few where we've had to just get rid of the fees, and I don't know if we swallow them or it costs us money. I'm guessing it probably does. And there's not really anywhere where we can go, oh, actually you've done this, so you should pay this, because we haven't told them. We've not given them the information.
No,
I've got the exact same issue. I've got that going on at the moment.
The problem is that when we get our info from Salesforce, if it's out of date, you know,
Quality of
it's not going to go. It's not even going to get to the right email address. So, because we're sending hundreds out in one go, it'll hit some, but not everybody. Which is why we try it with the account managers as well, because they should have the relationship with the higher volume merchants, you know, the individual relationships.
Yeah.
But I'll get a summary every week. I'll start sending that out more often. But yeah, we've got to do the targeted things. It's just we don't want to bombard them too much if we're also trying to sell them things. It's that balance, isn't it?
I suppose we could put something in the newsletter about how important 3DS2 is.
We've got
Christine's done that. We've done an interview, fake one, but yeah, it's in there. Yeah.
Is it coming out now, Muriel?
I don't know. It's marketing. I think it's planned. They plan it for the end of October.
This week.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, end of September, which is now first week of
September newsletter. Yeah, and we're already in October, so it should be coming soon.
I don't know. It's
Let's do it next September now. It's too late.
Christmas next. Okay.
Okay then.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks,
Just give me a
CJ.
shout if you need anything. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Get a
very
round of
much.
applause as well there, CJ. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye bye.
Okay, guys, on to the next one. The marathon.
I'll be last.
Have fun. Bye bye.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Bye bye.
It's going to be the same type of thing tomorrow.